What brings me in here? Well, I lost all my money in the crypto market. I bought some stupid token I heard about on YouTube and basically lost my whole life savings, and my wife left me.
I'm sorry to hear that. Losing money and a loved one can be extremely taxing. Let's explore ways to cope and start rebuilding your financial and personal life.
Okay, how do I rebuild my life? I feel like I just lost everything I've worked my whole life for, so what do I even do now? I feel like money was everything for me. I've been focused on it for so long, and then I lost it all in an instant.
It's understandable to feel that way, but there's more to life than just money. Let's work on finding new passions and goals, and explore ways to manage emotions and rebuild financial stability.
Well, I do have some other things. I do like teaching online. I like to make these YouTube videos that people seem to like. How does that help me?
That's great. Focusing on those passions can bring purpose and fulfillment back into your life. We can explore ways to monetize your teaching and YouTube videos to help rebuild your finances.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, March 1st, OpenAI released two new APIs, the ChatGPT and Whisper APIs, and this evening I had a little bit of time on my hands and whipped up a project that I thought I would share with you. And since I got it out the same day, that means it's probably pretty easy to use. So this little application I built, the whole front end, recording my voice, getting a response that it says back to me, using Whisper and the ChatGPT API, this whole application only took me 30 lines of code and probably about 30 minutes for me to even think of the project and write it. So that's the power of some of these tools. This wasn't possible when I first started this series, and I got excited when this came out, when this dropped today, so I thought I'd get something out pretty quick to show people how to use it and give you some ideas on ways you might use this thing. So the application I just demoed is pretty powerful. Like, this is the kind of stuff you saw in the old movies where the guy's talking to his phone and it's actually delivering pretty intelligent answers. And I've created this using a few pieces, just a few simple pieces. The first part that you see on your screen here is this user interface, and I've created that using a library or package called Gradio, and Gradio makes it really easy to create interactive applications. So this is people, a lot of the machine learning engineers and data scientists, they're not that great at creating user interfaces, or they might not be trained on making full stack web applications. You know, I'm more of a web app developer typically, so that stuff I know how to do, but a lot of people just want a very simple way to hook up a couple widgets so you can create a little text widget just like that and say, oh, create me an interface, give me an input of type text and an output of type text, and call this function to transform that input into this output. And it provides all these different ways to create input. So there's audio input, video input. You can upload a file, you can record from your microphone, and then it creates this little widget for you, right? And so all I did is create a microphone input, and then I could just record from the microphone. Hey, this is me recording from the microphone, right? And then I submit it. And what I'm doing when I submit
That's
it,
great. How do you feel about recording your content and exploring ways to monetize it? Let's work towards your goals and help you find success in your passions.
that's funny. You see, I'm actually transcribing what I recorded in my microphone using the Whisper API. So this new API that came out today, what I did is record it. It saves it as a local file, and then I take that file and I post it over to OpenAI's servers, and it transcribes that and gives me the text right back to me. And so what I do with Gradio is I call the OpenAI Whisper API, I get the text back, and then I send that text over to the new ChatGPT API. And so you see there, this conversation here is actually a continuation of what I was discussing at the very beginning in the intro of this video. So it's kind of funny. I just said that sentence there to test it out, and it actually replied, and I have all this context saved here. So it's more, instead of like GPT-3 API that I used earlier in this series, there's a whole dialogue happening, and it knows what I've said in the past, which is really cool. And so I'm saving all those messages that were saved in the past, and I'm having this conversation using my voice, transcribing it to a text using Whisper, sending that text to ChatGPT API, it's responding, and guess what? With the text that's responded from the ChatGPT API, I'm piping that to my operating system and having Mac OS X say that text out loud, and so that's how I get the little the synthesized voice, and there's a lot of different tools you can use for creating synthesized voice. You can even clone voices. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do now. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started with discussing how to create this thing. So to build this application, we'll first start with the user interface. So the most basic user interface, we can just take it from the Gradio homepage. There's a little quick start guide right here, and this shows how to use it. And so you just need to pip install Gradio. So you're going to install the Gradio Python package. So you can do pip install Gradio just like that. And if you look, I've included a requirements.txt, so you can do pip install -r requirements.txt if you just want to install the packages here, but there's only two of them, OpenAI and Gradio. So now that I have Gradio installed, let me just show you a quick bare bones Gradio application. So I'm going to make one called a web.py, and I'm just going to paste in the most basic Gradio app right here from the home page. So you can see you just import the package, you create a new Gradio interface that you launch, and what you need to do is say, what are the inputs, what are the outputs, and what function do you call to transform the input into the output? And so let's run this and you'll see what it does. And so I'm just going to run it. So I'm going to run that file. It's going to tell me it's running on localhost at port 7860. So I'm going to take this URL. I'm going to go to my browser, and you see I have an input called name, right? So there's my input, and then my output is right here, and those are both text fields. And so whenever I put some input into text there, so I'm going to say Larry, here is my name, and I submit it, you see it's going to say hello Larry, just like that. So my input, I put hello, that calls a function called greet, and that input comes in as an input to this function called name, and it just returns, whatever it returns goes into the output text. So it says hello, and then whatever name I put in, right? Just like that. And so what I could do here is just take the text I put in and send that over the ChatGPT API and have it respond with text and have my own private chat interface over here that's not running on ChatGPT on OpenAI.com, right? We can just make your own custom conversational bot for your own purposes or for your business. There's tons of value. People are going to create these everywhere. I heard Snapchat has already integrated this. A bunch of companies. There's going to be chat bots all over the place. So it's good to know how to make your own. There's going to be a lot of jobs based around this concept, et cetera, et cetera. So there you go. That's how you use Gradio. So now instead of a text input, I want an audio input. So if you go through the documentation of Gradio, you'll see there's all these different widgets and plots, visualizations, et cetera, et cetera. But you see there's a component for audio. So all you need is this gr.audio, and you give it a source. Either you can upload a file, audio from a file, or you can do it from source microphone. And so you can see in the therapist app here, what I did is at the bottom, you see instead on my interface here for the web, instead of interface input type text and output text, I said input type is audio, I said source is microphone, and then output is still text, right? And so instead of calling greet, what we're doing is making a function called transcribe. And so since this is an audio input, what it'll actually do is pass in some audio input into the transcribe function. So let's see what happens here. So I'm just going to return hello for now. And then actually I'll just return the transcription goes here, and then I'm going to say print audio just so you see what goes in here. So I'm going to stop this right there. I'm going to relaunch this. I called it demo. I changed it to UI. So UI, Gradio interface, audio input, and I do UI launch right there. And so I'm going to run this again. And let's see now that I changed type to audio. Look at that. Magically, it went from input type text to record from microphone. Hi, I'm recording from the microphone. I stopped the recording. Hi, I'm recording from the microphone. It knows how to record audio. I didn't have to write a lot of code to figure out how to do this. Now I'm going to click submit, and it says transcription goes here. So we need to fill in how to process this. And you notice I printed the audio input that came in here, and you notice, look at that, it gives me a file path to a WAV file. Perfect, I have an audio file, which is exactly what the Whisper API wants. So I'm gonna post this WAV file over to the OpenAI speech to text API. Look at this. So if I go to the OpenAI API and their documentation, you see there's this new one called speech to text. I go to the quick start. I need to import OpenAI. I'm going to import that. And if you've followed this tutorial, you know that we need an API key. We've done this on every single video almost. So you need an API key. So you just need to go to your account settings on OpenAI. generate an API key, watch my other videos, and everyone should know how to do this by now, and put an API key there. You can also put this in an environment variable, or you can hard code it here if you're just playing around with this, no big deal, and delete it later, all right? So I put mine in a config file, so I'm importing config, and in there I have a variable called OpenAI API key, so I'm just doing config.openai API key. And just like that, the OpenAI API is ready to use. And so let's just take the first simple code example we have. So it just wants a path to the file. We have a path to the file because it's called audio. So I'm just going to say open audio, right? That comes in from Gradio. And I'm going to say transcript equals openai.audio.transcribe. This is the name of a model, so I'll just leave that there, whisper1. And let's just see if it will transcribe my audio file. So I'm going to say print transcript just like that. And I don't think Gradio auto reloads, so I'm just going to stop it and rerun it. And so I'm going to refresh there. Try to transcribe this, see if you can do it. And then let's see. Transcription goes here. So I need to return. So whatever I return from this function here is what goes into the output. So I return transcription goes here. But what I really want to do is, you see I printed transcript. It gives me this response here in JSON format. And so the response has an attribute called text. Try to transcribe this. See if you can do this. Look at that. OpenAI Whisper did it just like that. And so I'm going to say return transcript. And then the key here is text. And return that. And I'll run this. And let's try another transcription. Submit that. Let's try another transcription. So look at that. I already have a web application that transcribes audio that I speak into the microphone. And that's only like 18 lines of code. Now, what's there left to do? Well, let's figure out how to use the ChatGPT API. So if I go here, there's a new, so we used text completion already. Look, there's one called chat completion now. And if you look at how this looks, let's study this real quick. So I'm going to copy this chat completion.create, right? And so I'm going to put this here. All right, I'm going to paste this right into my transcribe function, right? And so looks like all we need to do is call a function called create on chat completion here. It has a new model. Note, we've been using Text DaVinci 3, right? We've been using that in previous videos. Now there's a new one, GPT 3.5 Turbo. So it must be better, like Street Fighter 2 Turbo. So much better than the first edition and the previous edition. So this thing is getting better and better. And not only that, it's like 10 times cheaper if you read the documentation. So a lot of things, I've had some comments in my earlier in the series saying, oh, this is much too expensive to be feasible, and you can't have a financial advisor, you can't do this, you can't do that. Focus less on what's possible now and think about how fast these things are changing every single day, getting better every day, smart people working on this. And so it's going to blow your mind what's possible by the next few months, the end of the year, and it's crazy. So look at this. I didn't know I was going to be able to create a 30-line bot here where I can talk to it and it gives me an intelligent answer back. So who knows where this thing is going. So what I'm going to do here is say response equals OpenAI completion create, and I'm just going to send it this list of messages. Now note, instead of just a single message, like completing one sentence, note this is a list of messages here. And each message here is a dictionary. And one key is called role, and one's called user, and one's called assistant. You'll notice the very first message is role system. And so here says content, you are a helpful assistant. So you're telling a GPT or ChatGPT what it is. So you're a helpful assistant. You can say you are a command line prompt generator, or you can say you are a sports announcer, you are a rapper, Jay-Z, and that'll kind of define kind of how it behaves a bit. And so I'm going to say you are a therapist, right? And that's how I came up with this one. And so I'm just saying you're a therapist. And so that's the first message. And then the other roles here, it's a list. This is like the list of chat messages. And so anything that comes from me, I'm the user. And so what did I say? So let's say I'm saying who won the World Series in 2020. And I'm going to change this. I'm going to say instead of who won the World Series, I just want it to say whatever came in my transcript. So I'm going to say transcript text and plug that right in. And I'm going to take out this part for now. I'm just going to comment that out and see the response. So I'm just going to go directly from what I say in my audio, send that in, and I'm going to print out the response here. Okay, so I'm going to print the response. And yeah, we might already have this working, the simple version. So I'm going to do that. And so Now I'm going to reload this guy one more time. All right, I'm going to say my first message to my therapist now. I'm going to say, I have a terrible gambling addiction. And I'm going to say that, and I'm going to submit it. And that's what I said, but let's see what the response is that I printed here. So the content of the response is, I'm here to listen to you, and I want to let you know you're not alone in this. Gambling addiction can be difficult to overcome, but it's important to remember that help is available. Can you tell me more about what's happening with your addiction and how it's affecting your life? So great. I'm already able to talk to the ChatGPT API using my voice, and I get a text response back, right? And so that's great. And so you see the next role in here is called assistant. So this keeps track of what the assistant said back, and then I can say something else and continue this conversation. So what I want to do is keep track of all the messages. And so what I'm going to do, what I decided to do, and maybe there's another way you want to do this, I just kept a list of messages at the top globally here to demonstrate this. And eventually, it's probably not a good idea to have a giant list, but for the purposes here, it's pretty good. Maybe you might want to store this in a database, Redis, some other place you want to cache this. So I'm going to start out with the messages at the top here, and I'm going to pass in the list of messages, right? And so here at the top in messages, I'm going to initialize this with just the system here. So at the very top here, I have my list of messages, and I'm going to keep appending messages to this list. And so all I have at the beginning is sending it, you are a therapist, right? And then inside of here, I'm just going to do global messages, since I want this messages to be in scope of transcribe, and I'm going to be changing the messages inside of this transcribe function. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to pass it the messages. And so what I want is to append to that messages list. So I'm going to do messages.append. So when I talk, I want to append a new message. And so let me look at what I did here. Let me remind myself. I appended a new message of role user. And so I'm going to append a message with role user because I'm going to say something, and then role user is going to be me. I'm going to send it my transcript text, right? And then I'm going to call ChatGPT with my list of messages, right? With my appended user text. And then when it responds, I want to append what ChatGPT says back to me. So I'm going to do another append here. So first I'm going to store the system message. So ChatGPT responds. It has this dictionary. It has an attribute called choices, message, and then content. So I'm going to do choices, which is a list. So I'm going to say system message equals choices. It's the 0th element, the first element in this list. And then I'm getting the message attribute right there. And then I'm going to get the content, which is that key right there. And so that is the message from the assistant, just like that. So it's response, choices, 0 message content. And let me just make sure. Yeah, response choices, 0 message, that's response. Okay, so that's the system message. And so then I can just append that message. So I'm going to say messages.append, right? And then instead of role user, I'm going to append the system message. So I'm keeping track of the state of this conversation. I just have a big list of messages right here, and I'm going to append role assistant, right? And I'm going to append the system message right there, just like that. And then I'll have what I said and what ChatGPT said back. And then the next time I call it, I'm going to append the other thing I said and then another thing it sends back. And then I have this big list of messages of this chat dialogue that I'm having with my therapist, just like that. So pretty cool there, right? And then all I really need to do after that is just return. I just wanted to return the complete text transcript. So what I want to put in this output now, I don't want to just put what I said. I want to put what I said and my name, and then I want to put what the system said back to me and record the whole chat dialogue and put it in this output here. And so what I just wanted to do is build a string of text from that messages list. And so let me go back to my example here. And so what I did was create this chat transcript just like that. And so what I did was just loop through the messages and then record them all. And so what I did was just loop through the messages. So I start with an empty transcript, I loop through all the messages, and then I record the role. So I append the role and the message content and a couple carriage returns, and then I just return this chat transcript. So I'm just looping the messages, converting it to plain text, and then return that text right here, chat transcript, just like that. And then I can remove that response. And let me run this one more time. Let me see if this works. So I'm going to reload this. Hey, I have a terrible gambling addiction. I submit that. And you see I said, user, hey, I have a terrible gambling addiction. Assistant, hi there, sorry to hear you're struggling, etc., etc. Let's see if I can record something else. So I'm going to clear this, start again. Well, I've been playing a lot of blackjack lately and I hit on 18. I can't help myself. And then you see my transcript. I've appended more messages. So I said, well, I've been playing a lot of blackjack lately and I hit on 18. I can't help myself. Sounds like you're struggling with a difficult situation, et cetera, treatable condition, so on and so forth. And I can even send other text saying at the beginning of system here, if I don't want those verbose responses, I can say limit your response to 20 words, be concise. You can give it tons of instructions on how to respond. So I could say you're a therapist, respond as if you were a rapper, Jay-Z, right? And so I can run this again and do this. And it said, I do a lot of drugs and I have a gambling addiction. What do I do? And now you can see the assistant responds, yo, 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 I hear you loud and clear. You're dealing with some problems that bring you fear, but listen up, my friend, because I got some tips to help you out of this rut. You got to get your way to grips and so forth. So it writes a whole rap song in I can say, you're a therapist, Jay-Z style rapper, and it'll give me my response that way. And so that's how you use this role system here, and then I can chat with it there. And so the final thing I wanted to do to give this a little bit more pizzazz is to have it say something back to me. And Mac OS X actually has a command called say, and it can say, hello, how are you? And
hello, how are you?
Right, it's just a command line command. And in the system settings in OS X, you can, there's a setting in there where you can change the different voices. So it has a lot of different voices. And if you want to experiment with voice cloning and other things, you can do that as well. But to keep it simple, I just did a system call. And so in Python, you can just import sub-process right there. So that's built into Python. So I can just do import sub-process just like that. So then just below system message, so once I get what the assistant says back, I can do my sub-process.call, and I'm going to say, and then give it the system message I want it to say, just like that. And yeah, system message. I don't think I need the content now with this version. Okay, cool. Subpress.call say. And so let me run this again. All right, and then I'm going to record. I have a problem. I'm addicted to the stock market.
You addicted to the stock market? Huh. Let me tell you something about it. Listen up. First, you gotta ask yourself why you're addicted. Is it thrill-seeking or you trying to get rich quick? If it's the former, find some legal ways to get that high. You don't want the feds busting in with an FBI tie. If it's the latter, slow down, take it easy. Investing ain't no joke. It's better to be cheesy and invest in index funds, those with less volatility, less loss, more gain. That's the money mentality. But seriously, addiction ain't no joke. It's hard to overcome. It's like you're being choked. Talk to a therapist, find the root of the problem, and soon enough you'll be out of the stock market column.
And there you go. Now you know how to use Gradio, OpenAI Whisper API, and the ChatGPT API. Hope you build something cool with it. That's it for this tutorial. Thanks a lot. See you in the next video. Thanks.